everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to make a cotton headband or sweatband, and it can be used as both. If you're out in the park playing, if you're walking your dog, if you're jogging or exercising, or you're just sitting and watching those things happen, it's a good idea to have a 100% cotton sweatband to keep that sweat from dripping in your eyes. Now with this pattern, you can make one that is 2 inches across or 3 inches across. This one works better as a sweatband, but of course they'll both work. And of course this one makes a nice headband. And the great thing about this is that it's completely adjustable because you can measure and adjust it by how many single crochet rows you do at the end. If you make this pattern according to the ones that I have made, it'll fit about a 20 to 22 inch head. But keep in mind, these are very stretchy because of the stitch that we've chosen, and you want that headband or sweatband to stay put. You don't want it sliding down into your eyes. This is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. What you'll need to make one of these sweatbands or headbands is about 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces of 100% cotton yarn. You can make this with a blend. You can also use acrylic if you're just going to use it as a headband. But if you want it to be a sweatband that's going to keep that sweat out of your eyes, I really suggest that you use 100% cotton yarn. These two that I have here were made with Crafter's Secret Cotton. You can use any of the 100% cottons like Peaches and Cream or Sugar and Cream, or any of the 100% cotton yarns that are out there. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in those ends, and you'll also need your scissors. Because the pattern is completely adjustable to any size, I also recommend that you have your tape measure. That way you can measure as you go to make sure that the headband is going to fit the person that you're going to make it for. We're going to begin stitching our headband or sweatband by stitching some rows of single crochet. Then we'll switch to our double crochet rows, and then we'll end with single crochet rows, and then attach those 2 rows together. And this is where you will adjust it for size, is in these single crochet rows. For the demonstration, I'm going to be making the thinner headband, the 2 inch. This one is the 3 inch, and I'll give you instructions for making both. I'm going to begin with my slip knot, and then I'm going to chain 8 chains. If you're making the bigger band, you'll need to chain 10. Both headbands are worked the same. The only difference is that the bigger headband or the wider headband, you'll have more stitches. We're going to begin by placing a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both of those loops. We'll stitch 1 single crochet in each of the chains across. Now we started with 8. We began in the second chain from the hook, so we're going to have 7 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn. 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets across. And again, we'll have 7 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn. Your chain 1 does not count as a stitch, So we go right into that first single crochet and stitch a single crochet and one single crochet in each of the single crochets across. And again, we have 7 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn. Now you're going to repeat row 3 for 6 more rows so that we have a total of 9 rows of single crochet, 7 stitches across. If you're doing the larger size, you'll still have 9 rows, but you'll have 9 single crochets across since you're doing the bigger one. So for the smaller width, you'll have 7 single crochets. For the larger width, you'll have 9 single crochets, but we'll still repeat 6 more times so that we'll have 9 rows of single crochet. I've completed those 6 additional rows, so I have 9 rows of single crochet. Chain 1 and turn, and we're going to stitch 1 more row of single crochet. There we go. Lost my loops. Now, at the end of this row, we're going to chain 3 because we're going to begin our double crochet row on our next row. So at this point, you should have 10 rows of single crochet and chain 3. We chained 3 and we're going to turn. We're going to place a double crochet in the first stitch. Yarn over, go through the first stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over and go through the second 2 loops. We're going to skip the next single crochet and stitch 2 double crochets in the next stitch. We'll skip the next single crochet and stitch 2 double crochets in the next stitch. We'll skip that next single crochet and stitch 2 double crochets in the last stitch. And chain 3. Now, if you're doing the wider band, you'll have 1 more set of 2 double crochets. For the thinner band, the 2-inch, you're going to have 2, 4, 6, 8 double crochets with the skipped ones in between. If you did the wider band, you're going to have 1 more set of skip 1 and 2 double crochets. So here we have 4 sets. On the wider band, you'll have 5. Here's our chain 3, and we're going to turn our work. We're going to place 1 double crochet in the space between the first 2 double crochets. So we'll just slip our hook through and stitch a double crochet. And what we're going to be doing on these 2 double crochet sets is we're going to put 2 double crochets in the space in between each of the double crochets. It's similar to the V-stitch, only we're not putting a chain 1 in between the 2 double crochets because I want the stitches just a little bit snugger. Alright, so we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in between these next 2 double crochets. Two double crochets in between the next 2 double crochets. And 2 double crochets in between the last 2. And if you're doing the wider band, you'll have 1 more set of 2 double crochets in between 2 stitches. Alright, so that's how this row should look. And we'll chain 3 and turn. And you can see the pattern already emerging of how it's going to work through the body of our headband. All right, so we chained 3. We're going to stitch a double crochet in that space between the first 2 stitches. Two double crochets in between the next 2 double crochets. Two double crochets in between these next 2 double crochets. And 2 double crochets in between these last 2. And remember that chain 3 from the previous row counts as a double crochet. And chain 3. And you can see how that texture works. And we chose to do a V-stitch, sort of, because we're not chaining 1 in the middle of our V-stitches. But it gives you a nice compact texture, but it also gives you a little bit of hole space for breathability. If you're going to be using this as an actual sweatband, you'll want those little holes in there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to repeat what we did here for 15 more rows. And that's going to get you a headband that's approximately 20 to 22 inches. Now remember, it's going to have some stretch and you want it to fit a little bit snug. So keep that in mind when you're working your headband. And so just to repeat, we're going to be repeating this row that we just did for 15 more rows. Chain 3, 1 double crochet in the first space between the first 2 double crochets, and then 2 double crochets in the space between the 2 double crochet sets. And again, the 2-inch will have 4 and the 3-inch will have 5 sets of 2 double crochets. I've repeated up through row 28, which was an additional 15 rows. And this is where you might want to measure the length of your headband to make sure that it's going to be the length that you need. And then we're going to add some single crochet rows. So at the end of your last row of your double crochet stitches, we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the first double crochet and single crochet in the next stitch. And then we'll single crochet in each of the stitches across. If you're doing the 2-inch band, you're going to need 7 single crochets. If you're doing the 3-inch band, you're going to need 9 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn. And this is where you're going to need to add more or less single crochets in order to lengthen or shorten your band. So it's a good idea, like I said, to grab that tape measure, measure the size that you need, and then add single crochets until it's the length that you need to fit the head that you're making it for. If you're making your headband the 20 to 22 inch, you're going to need to stitch 9 additional rows of 1 single crochet in each single crochet across, just like we did at the beginning of our headband. This way you'll have a total of 10 rows. And again, this is where you add or subtract rows of single crochet in order to make your headband longer or shorter as needed. Once you've completed the amount of rows you need to fit the head that you're making your headband or sweatband for, we're going to put the 2 ends together and we're going to slip stitch them closed. I'm going to make a chain 1 at the end of that row just to snug that down. Then we'll put the 2 ends together, and they should meet up nicely because you should have 7 and 7 or 9 and 9. Alrighty? Okay, let's go through the first stitch. Get around that string there, pull it through, and then pull that loop through the loop on your hook. And we'll do this all the way across, going through both sides. There we go. You may have to ease it in a little bit to line it up like I'm doing, but you should have 7 and 7 or 9 and 9. There's my stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we'll cut our yarn and tie off. And this, of course, is the inside, and we have some weaving in to do, and this is the outside. All right, now we'll just take our needle, we'll thread that tail of yarn on our needle, and this, we're going to do this on both ends, and we're just going to, oops, there we go. Make some stitches, and I like to go to the center, and then I'll take the other side, and sometimes it's a little difficult to thread cotton yarn on, and so I'll open up the end like that and flatten it out to get it onto my needle. Just a little trick I do. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make some whip stitches going through those stitches. And I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot. I know a lot of times we don't, but I want this to stay put because I'm probably going to wear this a bunch when I'm working out, walking the dogs, exercising with my granddaughters, and things like that. So I want it to stay put. I tied it, cut it off, and now my headband is ready to be worn. This is the 2-inch, and this is the 3-inch. These are great for men, women, and kids of all ages. You just need to adjust the length, and of course, depending on what size you make. Let's go play!